time. So it's I'm opening up to listening to what you have to do, what your experiences are, and not just a one-sided show, but I want it to be very entertaining, and we can go ahead. Yes, CPA Samuel, I see your hand is up. Oh, you umeshukisha. So Moses.
Yes, we can hear you well, loud and clear. So thank you for the introduction. So maybe you can now start the session on cybersecurity.
Okay.
And I see the numbers are going up and up and up. Morris, we recognize your presence. Rosa, Stephen, John, Julius, Hilda. So today you are in for a treat. We will learn a thing or two about cybersecurity. So over to you. Nice, we can see your screen. It's okay.
So I'll be taking us through cybersecurity best practices for remote work environments. And before we just continue, I wish to put a question to all of us, and I believe it is something that we all experience. How many of us had a chance to work from home? And I believe, what were your experiences? And I want us to have that talk after the presentation is done, so that we share ideas, because the one thing that we need to understand is that the world is not at a standstill. After the COVID pandemic, a majority of organizations have opted to have either a purely remote working setting or a hybrid setting, or most of us have gone back to the offices. Up to that, do we have something that somebody wants to interject or say? Moses?
No. There is no one who has raised their hands as of now, but I'm sure the questions will come as we progress.
Okay. Now, as we said, cybersecurity is a very interesting field, and it just doesn't cover the most simple to complex things, but it also involves the current user environment. What do you do as a user? And one of the things that rotate around cybersecurity is also something called best practices. These best practices, as we know, are like are your guidelines. They are like your North Star, where they point you in the right direction. It is through this that we are able to do our work very easily. Our introduction will cover the overview of increasing trends of remote working, whereby we are looking at okay, we are looking at the overview of the increasing trends of remote work. We are seeing that our organizations, as much as we are saying we are back to the office, there are some organizations which have opted that it is easier for them to actually have their workers working from remote locations. How is that? It cuts down on some of the operating cost or expenses, OPEX, they're called OPEX or CAPEX, whereby they do not have to factor in issues like water, electricity, rent, and other utilities, repair of furniture, just to mention but a few. But what happens is that the amount of money that they are saving from this setup might be used in facilitating some of the benefits that you might get in your house or where, depending on your remote location. We have seen a majority of companies which have gone a further step, whereby instead of actually encouraging their workers to come back to the office, they have opted to lease maybe those buildings, so somebody else has taken over those buildings, and then they have decided to facilitate their workers from their remote locations. This gives you a lot of freedom, whereby you are able to work conveniently from where you are at any time that you feel like. And what is the norm in the developed world is that they give you that flexibility, whereby you are given a chance to work from whatever location you are, as long as the work is being done. So the importance of this is that we have so many people who are working across different time zones, which create a huge challenge for the IT departments, which means that they have to authenticate if this person is actually who he is, that they have the necessary rights, and what are they accessing. These are some of the challenges that the IT departments has to face on a day-to-day basis. We find that we also need to ensure some of the tools that we are looking at for the purposes of ensuring that our remote work is secure is to establish a secure network connection, whereby as long as that I am at a given point, and with the prevalence of public Wi-Fi's and everything, which your data is highly visible to any person who is there. But you find that organizations are purchasing or encouraging their workers to use something called a virtual private network, which acts as a tube or a cover, whereby your traffic is moving from your remote site to the corporate site in a secure manner. Because what happens here is that your data from the point where you are, from your remote site to the corporate network, is encrypted. And since you want to access certain information, there are some what do we call them, precautions that have been put in place, whereby that you have there's a certain criteria that needs to be met for you to be able to connect to that network. And some of those issues, or some of those precautionary measures would include workers being encouraged to use password-protected networks. How is this be? You might find that you are at, let's say, an airport. You'll find that as you are waiting to board your plane, you'll get that they have free network. It is an area rife for any computer-related misbehavior, whereby somebody might decide to sniff your data. And what is the most important thing that this person wants is your data. What does your data contain? It contains some of the sensitive information. So in a protected Wi-Fi network, they have to meet certain criteria that will secure that network. The other thing is that you use a strong authentication. When you mean strong authentication, is that we implement not just the passwords, but it has to have a certain characteristics. Which characteristics are we looking at? It should be at least X number of characters long. It should have letters, a combination of small and capital letters. What we say is alphanumeric, and also you add special characters. The other thing that is added is the issue of multi-factor authentication for all remote access. Here, what we say is that there is a secondary and a tertiary check to ensure that the person who wants to access the corporate network is actually who they are. So what would you do in a multi-factor authentication is that you will put in your password, yes, then a secondary mechanism will kick in that will also check to ensure that you are the one purporting to be this. You can be asked to give a secondary, there might be a pin that might be sent to your email, and it is your corporate email, not just any other email. A third measure might be you might be forced to maybe fill in those what we call capture messages that you might find on your network. The other thing that is highly encouraged is device security. We find that we have a challenge whereby people are still using old, or I wouldn't call them archaic, but very old systems. Let's say, for example, you'll find that since I bought a computer, maybe it is it's around during the Pentium age, whereby people used to have Pentium 1, Pentium 2, Pentium 3. And today we have ICO 3, 5, 7, and the latest, which is 9, and they're progressing to other ones. Some of these devices might not exist well with the current setting. You find yourself that some of the devices that you have you will find that this person will have Windows 98, Windows 2000, Windows XP, Windows Vista, just to mention but a few. Some of these, the NIS have been outdated and they have been retired, but somebody is still using them. The dangers with this is that those softwares are not being updated on a real-time basis, meaning there are avenues for hackers to exploit into your device. So it is encouraged that you stay up to date with your systems, whether it is your application systems or operating system. The other issue that might come into place is that most of us will find that it is easier for them to have what we call bootlicked systems or software, whereby you find a friend of yours who says, I have an antivirus that I downloaded from the internet. I can put it for you at around K or another figure. But the danger with that is that you're not purchasing a genuine software, which opens you up to a lot of problems, which might range from antiviruses and malware. So when you look at this, is that it is encouraged that every time your devices, that the ones that you're going to access into your corporate network are up to date when it comes to antivirus software and the anti-malware software. They are all one in the same when it comes to antivirus and anti-malware. So what we are saying is that your device needs to be up to date all the time. And you see that a majority of corporate networks are encouraging, they have put in place an antivirus system that supports the enterprise network. This enterprise network will have various endpoints. These endpoints are used to access different information from time to time. And in the tutorial that we're having is that right now as a user is that you are not operating within the confines of that enterprise network. You're operating outside that network. And plus you're connecting directly into that network with your device. If this device does not have an updated antivirus or anti-malware software, you have a likelihood of introducing those viruses into the organization. The other thing is to ensure data encryption. This is very important, and we have seen a majority of established organizations will put in place the necessary mechanisms to support data encryption. How do we do this? It is that sensitive data should be encrypted in transit or at rest. When you're saying in transit, is that since you're connecting from, or you're requesting for information from your corporate server to your remote site, the traffic that is moving from your remote site to the corporate server and from the corporate server to your remote site should be encrypted. And whatever is on your hard disk should be also encrypted. What are we saying in this case? What we're saying is that you're not seeing my presentation. Moses, can you confirm that they are seeing the presentation?
Yes, we can see the presentation. The screen we are seeing is live application.
Sorry. That is not supposed to have been nuanced.
Oh, sorry. We thought you were using that for.
No. That's supposed to be somebody else. Now, can you see the presentation?
Yes, now we can see the presentation. Yes. We are here at data encryption.
Sorry, that was a miss. What do you call it? Sorry, thanks, Lucas, for updating me. I had also drifted apart. So what we were saying is that we are looking at secure network connections, whereby we start with using virtual private networks to secure connections. And this we need this to which encourages password protected networks. Then we said something about strong authentication, whereby we implement multi-factor authentication for all remote access. And we also emphasize on the use of strong, unique passwords. The one thing that I also want to bring us back to this is that we should not at any point have the same password being replicated across board. In the event that somebody is able to steal one of your passwords, they are able to have full access to your information. Then we talked about device security, whereby we were talking about all our devices should be equipped with up-to-date antivirus and malware software, which have to be regularly updated for both the operating systems and the application. So the next thing that we're talking about was data encryption, which we say that the data in transit and at rest need to be at all times encrypted. By encryption, what we mean is that data cannot be readable to persons who are not privy to that information. We have seen in movies, and I don't know how true it is that when a device is lost, that person alerts their organization, and that device can be wiped clean. It can be wiped as if nothing was there. It becomes new and new, and whatever data is there, if there's any data, it becomes gibberish to the user. Then the other thing that we also have been encouraged to do is to use secure collaborative tools. Use reportable and secure collaborative tools for virtual meetings and communication. What are we saying here? We have the likes of Zoom, there's the likes of Google Meet, there's the likes of WeMeet, just to mention but a few. This enables us to work comfortably from wherever we are, and we are able to interact and get instructions from our co-workers. It is important that we are trained on the use of these platforms, because the one thing about them is that they ensure there's a level of security that has been put in place to ensure that the users or the workers are capable of working with minimum ease. For example, we remember most of us used, you are told you have to download Zoom, or the company had to purchase licenses for Zoom. And we were able to do our meetings, we attended conferences, we attended graduations, just to mention that a few. It gave us that uh, sense of belonging, that we are not alone. So we need to encourage our staff who are working remotely for purposes of communication to use some of these platforms. The one thing about these platforms, they ensure that there's end-to-end encryption of your data, so no one will be able to snoop in or bombard into your conversation. The one thing that I usually encourage a lot, and it is this that I base my argument at all the time. Since we are working towards, or we have harnessed the power of remote working, we also need to ensure that we continue regular awareness training, whereby users are continuously being trained on the issue of cybersecurity. Here we take a look at some of the attacks that somebody might get. You might get phishing attacks, social engineering threats. A phishing attack, somebody can purport to be somebody or wanting to ask you sensitive information from not a so trusted source. Social engineering is meant to hack into your minds to do things that ordinarily you wouldn't have done as within a corporate network. So this covers more than 90% of the awareness part of it, because once you train your employees on how on these cybersecurity threats that are existing, it will reduce the load on you when it comes to dealing with the threats that are in existence. Why? Because this person, on one hand, will be aware of certain things that might happen. There's a client of mine who I train, and they said that they are continuously being educated on phishing attacks, social engineering, and especially during the month of October, we had something called the Cyber Awareness Month. It was our Cyber Awareness Month, whereby organizations took time to train their employees on some of the threats that exist in the world of cyber and IT. Then we have the issue of endpoint security, which you just mentioned. We need to implement endpoint protection security, whereby we can secure our individual devices. How do we go about that? As we go back to our earlier slide, whereby you said training. You continuously train your people on how to conduct themselves from whatever position or whatever location they are. How do you do this? You can do on one-on-one trainings. You can send emails. You can do. You can call in an expert to demonstrate issues of phishing attacks and social engineering, just to mention but a few. But when it comes to endpoint security, which we deal on a day-to-day basis, and this is my lifeline, you need to put in place the necessary protective solutions, whereby not just firewalls, but you need to put in place intrusion detection and prevention systems which can be able to mitigate any intrusion that might come from you, from the corporate side, or from the middle, from the man in the middle, and from the remote side. We're looking at this as mechanisms that will aid you from being a target of a cyber security threat from any endpoint. We're also looking at it from whereby the new norm, whereby the endpoint is not within a building, but has relocated to somewhere else. Maybe you might find ourselves that this person is working from, let's say, Nakuru, or another one is working from Kakamega, or another one is working from Mombasa, just to mention but a few. These measures are put in place to ensure that we limit the exposure to the corporate network. We've emphasized on this, and this is what makes it all interesting, because outdated software is an avenue for security threats. And now that we are looking at it from a remote perspective, whereby there's no IT person who is going to come to your house to check if you have complied, or they are in any way likely to insist on certain things. It is up to you now to take up that responsibility, whereby you initiate some of these regular updates. We need to emphasize the importance of keeping software and applications up to date. We encourage that when a new software is released, take time, assess it, look at the possible loopholes that might be there. Once you find, or your ICT department finds that they can live, they can accept the challenges that come with that new software over the ones that the existing ones, they can take it. The other thing is that you can automate these updates to your device at any time, okay? You do not have to initiate them for you do not have to initiate them manually. Why do I say that? Because as human beings, we tend to forget from time to time. You might have a very hectic day, and you might say, I'll do it tomorrow, or I'll do it when I get to an internet access point, or I'll do it at a later time. I encourage that you make this an automatic process, whereby it can actually retrieve that information for you, and it can do it on the background, and you are able to relax your mind and know that the process is done for you. The other issue that we need to have in place is that our IT departments need to encourage something called an IR plan. This incident response plan enables you to report incidences that take place. Let's say you are a victim of a phishing attack, or you are a victim of data exfoliation, just to mention but a few. You need to have a plan whereby you can communicate the incident. You can communicate the incident to the relevant departments, and also it can be handled within a given time frame. Ensure that our employees know the reporting procedures for security incidents. Why do we say this? A majority of our employees will tell you, I didn't know that exists. I did not know we have this service in offer. I did not know we have this application for reporting these things. So it is up to us, whereby I go back to this to encourage during this training, to encourage our employees or our co-workers or those people outside our existing setup, that we have these services running. We have an incident response plan, which you can do this and that and that. You can outline the capabilities of that incident response plan or incident response application, so that when it comes to this, it is easier for your workmates or your workers to know what steps they need to take when they are confronted with maybe a given situation. The other thing is that we need to ensure at all times there's something called physical security. This physical security ensures that you lock your doors, you secure your cabinets, you put your machine at, let's say if you're having a laptop, there's a secure cabinet where you can put your laptop, because some of the organizations do not encourage their employees to leave their devices hanging loosely. But we also need to try as much as possible to ensure that the physical workspace is secure. We might be asking too much, but it's something that we will come to appreciate. You might set up a given time. You say, this is my working time, and you secure that area. Or if you have an extra room, ensure that you lock it and no one is able to access that room. There's something called privacy screen on your laptop in public spaces, whereby what this privacy screen will detect, it has like a face recognition software, whereby when strange faces appear who you tend to feel that they should not see what you're working on, it blurs itself. So it is encouraged that you use privacy screens. You also have what we call the dark theme. The dark theme also helps us a lot, whereby you are able to change the theme of your screen or of your interface in a color that somebody except you can see what the contents are. I cannot emphasize more on this. Since we are working from remote sites or remote locations, it is imperative that we constantly back up our data. Why are we saying that? Because today you might have your device, and then for one reason or the other, a burglar manages to break into your house and they are able to steal your data. The funniest thing about this is that when you lose your phone, it is not the pain of losing the phone, but the contents that are within the phone that really hurt the most, because you have no way of recovering that data. But if you have a backup, you can easily transfer your data from your secure backup to your new device. And the good thing about this is that with a remote working environment, there can be an encouragement of people to use cloud backup solutions. We have Google Drive. You can use that. Once you log into that Google, you're able to transfer your data to your device. And we also have Dropbox. You have OneDrive, just to mention that a few. Many companies have put into place something called automated backup solutions for their endpoints. Let's say, for example, your data on your laptop is on a it's constantly being backed up. So in the event that maybe you crash your machine, which I've not had for a very long time, or it is stolen, you are able to get data up to the moment of that incident taking place. If I can return us back to the previous slides, I think the second or third, whereby we said, as part of an incident response, you can inform the necessary authorities of this event, and they will be able to take the necessary action to recover your data up to the point of that incident. So that emphasizes the most important and most critical part of it all. There's the issue of employee training. There's the issue of incident response plan. So as a remote setup, we are looking that you will be working from various sites. We have seen people who live from point A to point B. Let's say somebody decides they want to move or they've been sent abroad to, let's say, for an engagement, and they are supposed to perform certain tasks. So, and their device is stolen. So this person, what is the most efficient way for him to recover his data? After this person has been authenticated that it is the new device is actually his, and they have met all the necessary measures, the data that they are seeking to regain can be restored on their machine. Then the most important part, which covers now the IT staff, is that you need to implement continuous monitoring of your network activities. Suspicious activities continue to happen, and in the event somebody has lost their endpoint or their device, you will find a lot of attempts being made to access certain data. So in the event that that machine has already been flagged, and that person intends to continue looking for information or searching for information or retrieving information, you can be able to lock that device out. We also need to conduct regular audits to identify vulnerabilities, not just be comfortable with the status quo. We need to not just leave it at that. We need just to always look at what are the challenges, what are the new vulnerabilities that have appeared. How can we address these vulnerabilities? We've heard of zero-day attacks, we've heard of malware attacks, we've heard of ransomware. How do we mitigate some of these things that will happen on a day-to-day basis? Last but not least, these best practices, we can say it all revolves around you as a user. We can invest so much on security apparatus, but the end game ends with the user. If the user does not exercise the caution that needs to be exercised, that multi-million-dollar investment becomes useless. It's like you buying a very expensive car, but you want to go and do your plowing or digging from, or you might take a Mercedes Benz to go and do farming with it. It becomes in that nature. You also need to encourage this culture of awareness and responsibility. How do we do that? It is that continuous engagement whereby we are always discussing about some of these challenges that they are there, and trying to look for amicable solutions, because security starts with you and me. We might do so many things, but at the end of the day, is that responsibility starts with me. If I decide that I'm going to go to a site that is known to be nested with malware, just because I want to get free software, you are exposing other workers or your colleagues to dangers that might affect how they work from time to time. With that, I wish to open the floor for questions and discussions. And Stephen Maitha, you will talk to Moses, and he's going to give you as what you had requested. With that, I can say I have summarized what I would have done for a very, very big, for 3 days for you in short. So I open up the the floor for you to ask questions so that I can respond to them. Otherwise, Moses, thank you.
Thank you so much for such an interactive and educative session. Someone here is asking for your number. I'm going to share it with them. I'm going to share it with them on the chat. So for all the participants on the webinar, we invite you to ask questions. I see Hilda has raised her hand. Hi Hilda, kindly unmute and share your concerns or even ask a question.
Hello? Moses?
Yes, so I see Hilda had raised her hand. We would want her to unmute her microphone and speak. Okay, I think she has dropped the call.
Sorry, it was in error.
Okay.
So I want to make it a bit interesting. I want to bring a perspective whereby today we are looking at challenges that face organizations. And we've seen, most of us, I think, at one point we have been scouring the internet for remote jobs. What has been your experience? That would be my first question. Number two, do you think that these organizations have put in place the necessary precautions or the necessary infrastructure to ensure that their remote workers are not in any way affected with that? I'll give you a case in point. For example, a company like Google has encouraged its workers to work from home. And in fact, they go the extra mile to even giving you a setup fee to enable that you are able to get the necessary infrastructure at your house, whereby you are able to, let's say, you can get a laptop, you can get a desk, you can get a comfortable chair, and you have access to internet, depending on what they might give you. They might give you instructions. They might say you can only connect using mobile provider A and not any other. So when we're looking at this, or they might say, okay, you're free to do what you can do you, but is it possible that existing organizations put in place the necessary mechanisms that support remote work in Africa? Let's not just look at Kenya in place, but is Africa in its right ready to embrace the culture of remote work? That is my question for you, and we can discuss about it. So Moses, I have given them a challenge. Now I want to hear their participation part of it.
Yes, I'm also eager to hear what they will say.
Because I want them to, because why am I doing this? Is that I want them to bring that culture, because as we are looking at, I'm not going to give them that an example whereby they develop work, because they already have an infrastructure in place. For us, we are putting that infrastructure in place. But what I want them to see is that the importance of remote work saves you the hustle and bustle of you moving from point A to point B. For example, there's a time before I moved to where I was living in Kaha West, and I used to go to work at National Bank. I used to have to, if I woke up, if I left the house at 6:15, I can assure you I used to get to work at 8:30. So now, in the event that now these organizations embraced that culture whereby, okay, for a bank, it's a bit serious. They might need you to work from the premises. But I'm giving an example. If this organization was to give its workers that opportunity to work from home, it is easier that this person just wakes up at around 7, prepares himself, sends off his kids or his kids or his spouse or whoever he lives with to work or to school, then come back, sit on your desk, do your tasks as they are usually being done from the safe point of view. You do the things you're doing at the necessary time and you finish. But there's also this culture of laggardness whereby since I've been given this opportunity to work from home, somebody decides now I'm going to do his own or to do their own side hustles. So it is something that we need to discuss and to come up with a suitable framework that encourages that this person will behave ethically, that when I'm supposed to be on my desk from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., I will actually do that. That is the discussion I would also like us to think about. With that, guys, the floor is open.
There is no wrong or right answer. I
Just
would
feel
add,
free.
yeah,
Just feel free. Feel free to give your insight, give your contributions. I'm just opening it up so that we can discuss about it.
Patrick Ndegwe, you might want to say a thing or two. Kindly unmute and comment. We can even have Esther Musila. You can unmute and respond. Alex Karaoke, you can also do that. There's no right or wrong answer. Abdul Shakur, maybe you can repeat the question. Jeth is asking us to repeat the question.
What I'm saying is that because it was a mouthful, but let me try and rephrase it. What I meant is that what can we do to encourage our staff to work from home so that we are able to cover on the lost time that they experience when they are on transit to and fro to the office. And the other issue is that, are we really ready to embrace remote working, irrespective of any sector of the economy, whether it is education, whether it is banking, whether it is advertising, whether it is software engineering. There are some that we cannot actually have that, like for manufacturing, you have to be there on site to do that. But you see now, that also needs us to appreciate the issue of automation. So how can that be done without creating unnecessary problems?
I can start us off if you allow.
Yes.
One way to encourage our staff is first by showing them what is in it for them. How do they stand to benefit first from, from remote working? So I would say you put an emphasis in terms of the staff training. And we know our weakest, our major weakest link to cybersecurity is the people. So I'd say first it starts with sensitization and first showing how they stand to benefit. Then with that, put tools or measures in place, to monitor in terms of how they're doing work and frequent feedback so that also they are able to tell that someone is monitoring, like showing the big brother is watching. And also having also online meetings, and you make sure people actually have their cameras on and they contribute. So those would be my few contributions in terms of how, if I am managing a team of staff, I would encourage them to work from home. And also I would also put a tool to show what it has, the impact it has by working remotely vis-a-vis the previous system that we had. So I'll also make sure that there are communications to that effect. Thank you.
It's a wonderful contribution, and I acknowledge it because why am I saying this? A lot of man hours are lost between the time you leave home to your office. If I want us to believe, and I believe you are very responsible people, that if I've been given a job and somebody expects me to do that job at 8, and they need me at my desk at 8, I should honor that call that I needed somewhere at 8. So if we are to embrace this, we also need to be very, very, very ethical in that if I'm needed at that 8, I'm there. If there's a meeting at 8, I'm not hard in a matatu going somewhere, but I'm in my office, a silent corner, ready to respond to those queries. Maybe it might be seen as something very small, but your presence there, we in our organizations, we are like a conveyor belt. If one of us misses at that particular point, there's a gap that will be created. So we can also encourage our staff. We can tell them, you see, you use this number of hours, man hours, coming to work. Then you get to work very exhausted. Then after that, you go back home, very exhausted, you sit in a jam and so many other things. Why is it that, why can't we do this? Why can't we encourage our staff to do remote work? For those things that you can assign them that remote perspective. And for those that we cannot, we encourage our staff, maybe let's say, depending on their livelihood, they can find amicable places around the working place so that they can be within the working area. So we find that, for example, I was giving an example where I used to live in Kaha West and I'm needed at National Bank. If I leave my house at 6:15, I'll get to work at 8:30. Because at that time, the Thika superhighway was not built. So you see, I have to leave 6 or some minutes before 6 to get to work at 8. But if there was a policy that said, so and so, you live X number of kilometers away from your working station, you should do this. If there's a branch there, you can work from that branch. Because if anyone wants to communicate you, there's an internal system that you can be able to communicate with that person, and they can still effect the same demands or commands or tasks from the existing location. So we need to argue these things out in such a way that remote work is not a ticket for being a sluggard, whereby you are not at work, but it is a ticket for you to be able to work efficiently and comfortably at any given time. You see, the one thing that I've also noticed about the developed world is that they're not looking at the number of hours you've seated in your desk. They're looking at your input. You'd see somebody will check in at work, let's say from, let's say 9 to midday, but the impact this person has made is very, very grave as compared to somebody who went to work at 8 a.m. and left at 6 p.m. You'd ask this person who is seated there for this number of hours, they cannot quantify. But this person who comes in at 9 a.m. and leaves at 12 p.m. has done a lot of work. The essence is, what have you been able to achieve during your working hours? So, and remote work, and what I've noticed about some of this remote work is that they peg certain milestones which you need to achieve. And what it does, it captures your screen. So if you are saying you're working and here you are looking at Instagram and Facebook and Tinder and Pinterest, all that is captured. And then they will look at your man hours for that week and they'll gauge you based on that, and you'll be paid based on that. It creates a work ethic kind of situation. So when you look at remote work, the majorities of companies, you'll see them, they're advertising on a day-to-day basis, and I get them so many times. They'll encourage their staff, or they will look at that as an alternative means of getting people who can do the job right. So it is an avenue that you can explore. There are so many of them. And it might be your side hustle, which you can benefit from it. That was my contribution. Anyone else can put in their word, and you can share up the talk. Moses, do you vouch for remote work?
Yes, all day, every day. According to me,
According to you?
according to me, there's no point of traveling from your home to go and sit in an office with a desk and just do your work. It is more prudent and productive for both you and your employer if you could just sit at home and do your work. And I've also found out that for most of the people who work remotely, they are more productive, they are more energized, they have more fun, as opposed to people who commute day in, day out, day in, day out. And come to think of it, in these harsh economic times, if you were to work remotely, the transport you're using back and forth to your place of work, home, for 5 days, if you could use that money on, for example, a stable network, a stable Wi-Fi, a stable network at your workplace, you will collaborate and get the work done in time. Because arguably, a lot of people, from what I've come to see, is they go to the office because there's Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is something you can install in your place and get the work done. Yeah, so I think I can ramble for so long. Let me just end my input on that. But I am advocating for remote work any day, all day. Yes, because
Because that
even
argument,
yeah,
that argument is what I
uh-huh,
usually hold very dear. Because
uh-huh,
how
uh-huh,
much are you using? Let's say
yeah,
you're using your own car. You
yeah,
decide you want to move from point A to point B. How much
yeah,
do you need to put into that car so that you get to work and back home? Okay.
yeah,
If I were to use that amount of money to
uh-huh,
modernize my home in
yeah,
such a way that I have the necessary infrastructure and still being able to
yeah,
work, it
yeah,
saves me a lot of hassle and bustle. But now, the problem with us is that we have been blended into that traditional work set. you need to be at a desk somewhere. When I call you, when I want to monitor you, I have to come and see you are seated on that desk. Stucky story. That is the story.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Stucky
yes.
story. I'm
Yeah.
paying you to sit on that. If you are not, if I am okay sitting, I'm okay seeing you sitting there doing nothing than assuming that you are in some funny place pretending to work.
Yeah.
That is Mr. Isaac, I see you have raised your hand up. Abdul Wahab? I see Isaac has risen his hand up and he has taken off. So for me, I advocate it because, you know, there's one thing that I'm going to step out of the topic for a while, but it will bring it. You will understand why I'm saying this. You see, there's that. There's that. Yeah. Hillary Kusgei. Hillary. Moses, can you mute Hillary?
Yes, I'm trying to mute him.
He's sharing corporate secrets. What I was saying is that today we find that there's that disconnect between you and your family. Hillary, pigie simu jamani. You see, there's that disconnect between you and your family. And we find that as time goes by, you continue to be distant and distant. But with this setup, it is easier for you to be closer to your people and you are able to interact with them. Because the one thing that I realized, there was a study that was conducted by some company in those developed countries, whereby they said they found out that the workers were more productive when they were working at home. Because what was this? They were able to see their loved ones, and they were constantly part and parcel of their life. But in this scenario, how well does that remote work fit into our lives? Does it now give us a chance to slugger away from our roles, or does it give us a chance to be more productive? Those are the things that we need to be arguing about. Those are the things that we need to sit and encourage. I like what you said, Moses, about whereby how much money are we wasting going to work and back? It's not wasting. You see it. They say they are paying you they give you a commute allowance, they do this and do that. But if I was to take a portion of that money, let's say I talk to a company like Safaricom and I ask them, how much internet, fiber internet can you give me for this amount of money? And I tell my company, is it possible that I can purchase a laptop or a device and put it in my house? But that device needs to be within the security parameters you people have set at your organization. I like what one bank has done is that there are things that you cannot do on your machine once it is outside the network. And some of these things, you can actually enforce them through policies on your firewall, so that this person is actually accessing the necessary information at the necessary time. So I leave it at that. And Moses, please talk to Kosgei. He is distracting our people. So I still believe as a country, and being a country that has really made strides in the area of information, communication, and technology, I believe it's something that can be done. But now we need a culture whereby we are very serious about being productive. That will be my contribution. If we can be able to work from home, it gives some level of leverage for you to actually be productive, work, and also give the necessary outputs. Moses, I leave the cue to you and ask our participants or attendees if they have any questions, any queries, or anything that they want me to repeat, so that I can repeat, and it might, so that it can be in a way that is understandable.
I see. So, hey, so far so good. I see Isaac has raised their hand. Isaac, kindly unmute on your device and ask your questions or give your input in regards to remote working. And before he speaks, I wanted to also add in, I saw some video online of a company in the US, and what happened was they decided to put a policy whereby if you wanted to work from home, you can do that. No one is going to follow up on you on your deliverables. And what they came to find out 1 month later is general and overall productivity had gone up 40%. People are not missing on meetings. People are working even longer hours. And generally, there was a boost in terms of sales, product development, and the business actually improved. What they found out was people who work remotely, they are, for example, more flexible. Someone can wake up maybe at 5 a.m., work from 5 a.m. to 9, sleep, or go do their business, come back later, for example, at 8 in the evening, finish up on what they were doing. And because people know they have to work and they have duties, it resulted in overall and better performance. I don't know whether you've seen that video online or come across such a study.
I did, and what I came to realize is that, you know, when you are surrounded by your loved ones, you tend to get a lot of motivation. That's why majority of companies will give you that opportunity to bring a photo of your wife, your kids, your pet, the office. So when you feel least motivated, you look at their picture and you reboot again, and you're back to being the productive person that the company needs. Because what I realized, there was a very big tagging between, I think it was Elon Musk, and the people of X, which is now Twitter, which is now X. During the former CEO, I can't remember his name. He told them, my friend, work from where you are working. That is not my problem. You work from home. Okay? Work from home. That is your problem. Work from there, and all I want is to see that the application is running and it's getting optimization. and people are working very well. But when Elon Musk managed to buy the whole of X and renamed it, he demanded that all these people be returned to the office, and a majority of them actually resigned because these people found some comfort from home. They were able to see their people because and known to us is that these people really work long hours. Somebody might get into the office from, let's say, 6 a.m. in the morning. They'll go to bed at 10 p.m. So for them, it gave them that kind of flexibility. I can be able to work in my trousers, in my shorts, at any, in whatever setup. The most important thing was that they were able to work and deliver. Then came Elon Musk and said, my friend, I'm not going to pay you if I don't see you at work. So that setup actually works for me. For me, I'm an advocate for remote work. I'm an advocate and I'll continue advocating, not unless something else happens and somebody tells me that it is a necessary evil. I believe in remote work, and if it works, it works. It worked and it worked, and I believe if we were to encourage this setup, trust you me, your workers are going to outperform themselves. We know there are some 1, 2, 3 who will be running away from duty, but there are mechanisms of you knowing who has worked and for how long. And it can actually, somebody might say, I logged in. But you see, there's a way that it actually captures information around you and what you are doing at every given interval. So you can tell, this person can tell you, no, but I was working. But you can also remove the evidence that, my friend, we saw you logged on, but you left the screen open, the screen never moved, or this never happened. You're supposed to do this, this never happened, and these milestones have never been met. So you never worked. So they deduct your pay. So for me, I advocate for remote work. I will continue advocating for it. And it gives you a lot of flexibility. If you can do what you do best, I believe when you are around the people you love the most, you can do even more than best. Otherwise, guys, thank you for your company. Moses will share my contact with you. Whoever feels that they want something to be clarified or reach out, feel free. At any given point, I am available. Just feel free, just send me a text, tell me that I am interested in 1, 2, 3. I'd like to know more. And Kappa-Bill is your place. As they say, build on better, creating greater freedom for your success. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so
I
much.
will leave my email there, and Nani will share my number with you.
Yeah, I've shared your number in the chat, and
So
we can
feel
see your
free,
email.
ask me anything, and what I'll do, I'll send Moses a copy of the slides, go through it, and try and internalize it. Where you have a problem, just send me a text or send me an email. I will respond to it in the earliest time possible. Others, guys, let's keep on the good work. Let's continue learning. Let's appreciate whatever we learned today and put it into work. And I believe, as an advocate for remote working, there's a lot we can achieve. And guys, you're my ambassadors out there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We need another session. I'm sure all of us can agree. People here are calling you James.
Just
It's
tell them it's Jamwa. Just tell them Jamwa. Jamwa is my will be very much. Jamwa is
true,
okay with me. Yeah.
true. So, there being no other questions, we have come to the end of the workshop. So we will stay behind for 2-3 minutes for anyone who might want any clarification or anything, additional details. So we have shared Jamwa's email and number on the chat. So let me read out his number: 0727 389 982. I'll read again: 0727 389 982. His email is arinajamwa@gmail. Jamwa, A I N G M W.
Moses, you are breaking up. People did not hear you.
So,
Hello? I was requesting that if I can take a screenshot of the participants for my LinkedIn. You can still find me. Let me share with you my LinkedIn. Let me share with you so that you can follow me, or you can I can post this. So I'm just asking, just in case, if somebody is uncomfortable, just tell me I'm uncomfortable. If you feel like you're up to it, I don't have any problem.